PM Kester, and welcome to the How to Take a Break podcast. This is a wellness-centered podcast presented by PM Kester Enterprises that examines the different types of breaks people take and why you need to incorporate breaks into your life. Let's start the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Take a Break. This week, for this episode, I am taking a break to manifest your destiny, which is big and broad and bold, and I think lines up perfectly with my rebirth year. Joining me for this conversation is someone that I actually kind of consider an expert on this topic. It is Youmie Jean Francois. She is the founder and CEO of Flex and Fly, which is a travel wellness company. I'm not going to go into the deeper background because I want her to share that herself. But Youmie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I was so honored when I got invited. I was like, yes. I can't wait. I love your vibe. You know, I support you in everything that you do. So thank you so much for having me on your platform.
You are another person that I was in awe of. So I was so happy that you said yes.
It took me 5 seconds. I was like, oh, yes. Yes.
So far, that has been you and Nikki Porche that I was just like, oh my God, they said yes. What is happening? Like, do you know who you are? But thank you for coming out. I'm just, again, of course, you know, I consider you a mentor, a friend. You're just a great person. I'm so happy that I've met you. And I'm so happy to have you on to talk about this. But before we get into it, I want you to give people a background. Tell us who you are. What do you do?
Oh my God, this question, I keep getting this question. And at this point, I'm just like, who am I? Like, what is happening, guys? Well, my name is Youmie Jean Francois, and I like to think that I am a warrior from Haiti, you know, born in Haiti, raised in the Bronx, New York, right? An avid traveler, a lover of people and food. Right? Mm-hmm. If I'm hungry, just give me food. Everything will work out. And I just like to remind people of their power, the power that they have versus the power that they think they don't have. You know what I mean? I like to bring you back to yourself, the one that hasn't been tainted or, hurt, damaged, traumatized.
Okay, now.
That version of you. I want to go back to that version of you before all that.
Yes. See, you already out the gate with like sound bites, clips, inspiration. I mean, already inspired. Well, thank you, man. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about Flex and Fly. Why Flex and Fly? What made you start this company, and what exactly is Flex and Fly?
Well, Flex and Fly is my third business. I sold my last 2 business. I started Flex and Fly really because I have a background in traveling a lot. I was a professional backup dancer, and I traveled around the world, and I realized how much anxiety was at the airport. Mm-hmm. Years later, I wanted to create peace in the midst of chaos. I was on a trip. I was heading to Lisbon to meet with my sister, and I ended up missing my flight and heading to Morocco. So I spent a little bit of time there, and while I was at the airport there was a man, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but in Morocco, like it's mostly, you know, like a lot of Muslim countries. So there's a lot of things they allow. And like, so people were taking a break to go pray in the airport. And I saw the man, you know, for lack of better words, to me, in a child's pose in yoga, right? And I was like, man, this would be such a great place for this if this was like a stretching class. And I just was like, boom, like that's where the idea came from. And then like I want to say 6, 7 months later, I quit my job and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start Flex and Fly. I want to be clear because I've been getting this a lot. I don't know anything about the airport and like I don't have any experience in that world outside of the fact that I took planes a lot to travel. I just knew that I wanted it at the airport because that's where chaos was. I like to
Right.
think that if you're going to build any form of business, you want to be an answer, right? So usually there's a question or a problem to solve. So to me, I wanted to take care of the flight attendants, the pilots, and the travelers that suffer from anxiety. I wanted to take care of their mental health because travel and wellness are two very important things to me. And I just wanted to, bridge a gap. And my company is that gap.
Right. I love it.
Thank you. I can't wait for y'all to experience it next year. It's been a long road. But I know we're going to talk about manifestation, but I'm in such a season of life of harvest.
All right.
And getting to the harvest ain't easy now. But I'm really pleasantly surprised of what God is doing in my life and how I couldn't even write this out. It could only be what he wanted. And so I'm really excited about that.
And this is good because this leads us into the next question. So there's a standard definition of manifestation. It
Yeah.
says an event, action, or object that clearly shows or embodies something, especially a theory or an abstract idea. You've mentioned manifestation a couple of times when we were talking about where you are now with Flex and Fly and even your life. How do you define manifestation?
Oh, that's a good question. Manifestation is when your vision and desires align with God's will.
Like that.
Yeah. And let me just say that wasn't an easy answer to get to. I had to get to that answer. That wasn't a revelation. I had to literally develop and practice every other form of manifestation that the world tells you that you should be practicing to get to this one. And to me, it's when your vision is aligned with God's will for your life. Because any vision where God isn't part of it is straight ego driven. And even though the ego is not necessarily a bad thing, it has a way of creating such independence, such at times selfishness, and even at times where you can only see what you want, what you desire, that it creates an addiction that isn't necessarily healthy for you to become the fullest version of yourself, but rather getting what you want out of life. And getting what we want out of life isn't necessarily always the best thing, right? It's this idea of, oh, you can do anything, but should you?
Right.
That's how I feel about manifestation. So I had to actually get here. I've been in a place in my life where I've been able to manifest things so quickly. It was scary and it wasn't aligned. Like I got what I wanted. It was exactly what I wanted.
But it
and
wasn't
I
in a line.
It wasn't aligned. And I remember, because I'm such a stubborn, I'm a Taurus now. Because one thing about us, we gonna get what we want, okay? And my desire, this feeling of like I always get what I want type of thing. I remember when God humbled me, because life will humble you. I was on the train crying about something, and I remember manifesting that very thing I was crying about, because it happened. And I remember hearing God says, sometimes I have to give you exactly what you say that you want for you to see that it is the opposite of what I want for you. And I was like, no, I kissed you. Why would you do that to me, Lord? Why we gotta go into this place? You know what I mean? I was so broken. And I just felt like, yo, can I get a break? Can I just get a break? And
but you asked for it.
but I asked for it. I mean, I visualized it. I brought it to life. And it's like, yo, sometimes we're visualizing the very thing that God wants away from us. And that's why for me, the alignment of God's will is so important, because God's will is what's always best for us. And at times we've been conditioned to put so much of what we want into the world. And even, I'm guilty of that at times, especially in my growth with manifestation and having a relationship with God, about how much I'm like, you can have whatever you want, you can do whatever, all of those motivational sayings, motivational statements that sounds good. And it motivates you in such a way where you're like, I can do anything, I will be anything, I will do it, I have it. And it is completely not part of God's will. And you always know when you're off course, because alignment provides so much peace that everything else is conflicting.
Right.
Everything else is conflicting. And so for me, it's just a matter of like really making sure that whenever I'm sitting down and choosing to manifest something, it has to be part of God's will. I've just learned with too much of a hard head, and I just want to do it with a soft head now. And so that's the place I'm in right now in my life.
No, but I love how you said that, because it's the alignment. And some of the listeners may know this story of Iyanla Vanzant and Oprah Winfrey. They had this thing where, they weren't speaking for a while, and Iyanla said, and it's a manifestation thing. She went and she took something, and it was a case of the anointed time versus the appointed time. She went and did something in a time that was appointed, like Barbara Walters and all these other people were telling her, like, now's the time, strike while the iron is hot, come do this talk show, come do this. Oprah Winfrey told her, no, now is not the time. But she was like, no, this is the appointed time.
Everybody's telling me this is the time.
This is the time to go. This is the appointed time. The talk show failed. The talk show failed. And then when she came back and she got with Oprah, then she blew up, because then she had Iyanla Fix My Life. She was doing these specials, the tour, because then she was working in the anointed time. Sometimes we try to rush things that are not for us yet. Sometimes we need to cook a little bit more. And I say that because I've been guilty of that. Like, why is this not happening for me? Everybody else is doing this. And it's just kind of like, yo, you need to slow down. And people have to come in my life and be like, because it's not your time yet. And so when you said working in that alignment, when your vision and desires align with God's will, yes, I mean, that's it. It's all about manifestation. There's alignment in there. You have to be aligned. So that when soon as you said that, I was just like, it's Oprah and Iyanla.
Oh my God. So I want to add to that, because I think I literally just made a video about this and you'll see it. The reason why so many of us don't understand why we're so impatient is because we don't understand the seasons of life. We don't understand the seasons of life. With every season in life, there is a time to sow, right? It's when you plant. There is a time to nourish or nurture or water that seed or plant. And then there is a time to harvest or receive the fruit of your labor, right? Those are the seasons of life. Most of us operate in only the harvest season desire, right? So some people aren't even sowing seeds. They just have an idea and they're like, what's the harvest? They skip the whole planting. They skip the whole nurturing and nourishing and watering season, which is actually the biggest part.
Right.
The biggest part of your patience is the nurturing, nourishing, and watering that seed, because that is where growth happens. That is where you get straight revelation, communion with God. That's where you get to learn different levels about yourself, what you accept, what you won't. Like, there's just so much growth in the watering season. But so many people rush past it. They don't even want it. They're like, where the harvest? What's my food? Okay, I pray. I prayed 5 times. Okay, I prayed for a year. Okay, I prayed for 6 months. All right, what's the harvest? What's what I want? And so you don't even understand that patience is a fruit of the spirit. You can't even understand that it's a fruit because you haven't developed it. How can something be sweet and good for you when you haven't developed it? You will only look at it as if it's a problem, as if it's something that weighs you down. You understand what I'm saying? And so for many of us, alignment isn't even a thought because we just believe in cause and effect. Cause and effect. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like right and wrong, black and white, red and blue. Like life is so specific and simple in that way to us when it really isn't. The truth is, if we really want the simplicity of manifesting our best lives and the things that we desire, we have to understand the seasons of life. You have to be willing to plant. You have to be willing to water that plant, and you really have to wait for that harvest. And the
Right.
harvest timing isn't based on how good you were or how much you prayed or how much you beg God for what you want. It is waiting. We talked about this, waiting confidently and waiting hopefully. But if you're waiting thinking that it's not going to work, waiting in lack and desperation, you keep it away farther.
I like that. And it's a lot of waiting. And I think you've kind of answered part of this next question. Which is, when you went through the seasons, knowing what seasons you are and waiting patiently. And I think that's the biggest key, waiting patiently. What advice would you give someone who's listening or seeing a clip of this on YouTube or Instagram? What advice would you give someone that is trying to manifest their dreams, their destiny?
I would always say to pray. I really wish, I don't want to disappoint you, whoever's listening, but I can't give you what I don't have. I only have God. Like, I wish I could tell you all those books work out exactly the way everyone keeps telling you it does. But if those books don't have God's will aligned, you will find yourself still feeling like you're hungry, you're empty, like it's not enough. You have to go to the creator and the source. Many of us have a habit of idolizing the creation versus the creator, right? We'll go to the books, we'll go to the preachers, we'll go to the motivational speakers, we'll go to all those things that makes us feel motivated or that makes us feel good. We won't go to God because we know that with God comes correction. And a lot of us are afraid to really manifest truly because it's going to take some correction. I don't know who this is for because I haven't spoken about this like this before, but like some of us need to be corrected and some of us need to understand that those who truly love us correct us. They're not going to just watch us suffer in silence, suffers over and over, continue to make the same mistakes over and over, even though you're pleading to God every day for a breakthrough. If you're looking to manifest your best life, you have to go to the one who gave you life. And that's God. You have to go to the source. You have to actually say, hey, I'm feeling not okay. I'm not feeling like I'm living the life that I should have, that I felt like I was promised, or that I believe that I should be living. And you can go there with God. Let's just be clear, because God is very real. You can go there with God, but you have to start with prayer. Prayer changes things. I don't care what anyone tells you. If you look at outside the world and what everyone is saying and what everybody thinks, you're going to think that it doesn't, but it changes things and it gives you revelation. But I often talk about how when you pray, it's when you talk to God. But when you meditate is when God speaks to you. So it's important that after every prayer, you take a beat and sit in silence, even if in the beginning it's only 30 seconds. Let God speak back to you. It is a relationship. It is intimacy. Many of y'all don't know where to start or how to keep even your manifestation because you don't have any form of intimacy with God. The relationship you have with God is strictly about give and take. Okay, I'll pray, but will you give this to me after I pray? And it's like, that's not how it works. So I would say go back to the source. And then God will give you the resources that do work with his alignment. Because that's what happened with me.
And that's the key word. But that's the key word also is the word work. I was listening to someone, this might be like my friend that does money management.
Okay.
And she's talking about, everyone talks about faith and gotta have faith so you can get to this next level and stuff like that, but we missed the part with the faith without works. Like you got to put in some work. And this is the same thing with manifestation. Like you trying to manifest this new job, you trying to manifest this new boo, this new career, you still got to do some work to get to that point. I mean, even going in and writing the stuff in the journal, that's some work. Some people don't want to do that. Getting up every morning, visualizing it, writing out a plan to be like, okay, I want this new career. God may be telling you like, okay, you want this career. Do you need to go back to school so you can get it? You don't turn the volume down, turn the volume up. But there's work involved. There's work involved. It's not
there's a lot of work involved, and a lot of the work starts with self-reflection, right? And it starts with being real about yourself. Like, why is your spirit low? Like having hard conversations that a lot of us didn't learn how to have hard conversations. So having real conversations with ourselves often makes us feel uncomfortable, and it's much easier to just ignore it. Many of us are very good at just going back to it. Like, oh, I'll get back to that later. Like I don't have time for this right now. It's like, you don't have time for you? You're trying to manifest a better life. You don't have time for you? I'm trying to understand something. The sooner you're able to face yourself with God, the sooner your life will be better. I'm telling you that right now. And I'm not saying to be clear, it's not linear. Your relationship with God is not like, oh, we're back on, we're growing straight to the top. No, it's very much up and down. It's very much like, oh my God, like I am very selfish. I have a lot of selfish desires. A lot of the things that I want is only self-serving. A lot of the things I want is based on my trauma. Some of you guys are manifesting things from your trauma life, not even your real life. You understand what I'm saying? And so you're like, I want to manifest this. I'm trying to manifest that. I'm trying to, but it's not even the real you. You're not manifesting for the real version of you. You manifesting from the broken side of you. So that's why you got to be careful with the manifestation. That's why it's important to be aligned with God's will, because the things you're manifesting is only trying to come and take place of the things you're trying to ignore. Oh, I can't be alone. Why not? I understand that God says it's not good for men to be alone. So I get that. I understand when you're lonely, right? The root of the issue is loneliness, not that you can't be alone. So when you get with God, you're going to deal with that. So that when you start manifesting the love of your life, God will offer you someone that understands what happens to you when you start to feel lonely, why you act certain ways, when you start feeling, when you have abandonment issues, why? But that situation has to be healed from God, right? But if you get into a place where you're like, where you get out of a poor relationship, for example, a relationship where someone didn't serve you and they didn't do you right and all that stuff, and you're like, I'm going to manifest the best man and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Though your mindset is well, you mean well with this form of manifestation, you're still not healed. You're not in a place to heal or to manifest from a healed place. It's very different. It's not that you won't get it. You absolutely will. But if we're looking to have the fullest, because I try to not use the best life, the fullest, to meet the fullest version of yourself, the fullest life that you truly desire, you have to manifest from a place of non-brokenness. You can't be out here manifesting from trauma. You're going to be manifesting some crazy stuff. And then you're going to be like, Why do I keep attracting these same type of people? Why am I keep attracting these type of people that, or these type of friends, or this type of job? It all starts with your relationship with God. It all starts. Listen, I remember the time when I knew I heard God. It was a really difficult time in my life. And I remember trying my best to hold on to myself. I was like literally holding on by a thread. And I just remember being on the wall. My head was on the wall in my living room. And I just was looking at myself like, this is a mess. This isn't even who I am. What is going on? And I remember hearing God says, let your heart break. I'll put it back together.
There you go.
Because I was trying my best, I was trying my best to hold my heart together on my own with everything that I had. And all I had to do was let it break so that I could meet myself again.
Yep.
And so many of us won't allow ourselves to go there. People tell you can bend, but you can't break. Break. You can break with God. Break. Break. Once you break, you're going to get to meet the version of you that you've been missing. And I can tell you, because I've gotten to the other side, it is beautiful here. It has its challenges as well, because you're constantly, once you start hearing God, you can't ignore God. You understand? So little negative mindsets that you used to let linger in your life won't linger anymore. It can't, because this version of you don't know it. So it immediately attacks it. There's sometimes where I'm thinking things and I'm just like, that's not very kind, Youmie. Well, my spirit is like, that's not very kind, Youmie. And I'm just like, well, that wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't that bad. Was it that bad, Lord? But the Holy Spirit, the Lord is like, yeah, no, it is. It is. Because it starts with the seed, like everything else. And if you give it time, somehow, some way, it'll get watered. You understand what I'm saying? So it's really important that you really, when you start this manifestation thing, you got to get in the word of God. God doesn't want you without. I want to be clear about that. God doesn't want you lacking. God doesn't want you in a place of your life where you feel like God doesn't want you to win. Like, give me a break. All the girls that be like, God, I see what you've done for others.
What about me?
Yo, when I tell you, I'm always laughing when I see that, when the girls are like, Lord, I see what you did for her. I see what you do for others, especially when they see like it's about love.
Yes.
And I'm just always like, every time that used to happen to me, I used to be like, God, thank you for what you've protected me from.
Look, and
thank you so much.
Is real. That is real. That has been me recently.
What?
I have, because as Youmie knows, I will be single for like a year this month.
Oh, wow.
I had the really bad breakup, and I basically had to allow myself to be broken. I mean, like, I hurt.
Yeah.
I hurt. And healing started. Of course, therapy helped, but healing started because I started taking these walks on the Beltline in downtown Atlanta with my headphones on, and I started listening to the word of God. I would listen to Sarah Jakes. I would listen to TD Jakes. I would listen to Miles Monroe, and that would be my walk. And then I just started noticing that things just, I went through this reconnection with myself, and I had to come to terms with it. I had lost myself. And so it's gotten to this point, like now, because now I have been back out here dating. And right. someone was asking me, like, oh, it's going to be like a year. And I said, well, thank God he protected me from a lot of folks I wasn't supposed to be with. Okay. And that's how I look at it. Cause I'm like, and the person who's going to get me now is going to get such an amazing version of me. I feel like I'm at the best place for myself now. I've been alone, but I haven't been lonely.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? My company is great. Like I really am in tune with who I am. And so I definitely agree with the thing is like, you know, I see what you doing. Like, I'm just like, child, I don't know what your house is like because I know that what's for me is coming and it has my name on it.
Listen, you have to be careful to not look at other people's homes and desire their homes. Because what God has for you is so, like, I wish people understood what kind of craftsmanship. Like, I wish you knew how detailed and intentional God was about you and your love life, your work life, your children, your peace, your laughter, the things that bring you joy. God is very specific and intentional about that. He has not forgotten you. And the thing is, what he gives me, you know, it's completely different what he's gonna give my sister, the love of my life, because my sister and I are so specific and different in who we are.
So thank you so much for tuning in to part one of this conversation with myself and Youmie. I hope that you have already gleaned a whole bunch of gems because, I mean, she was dropping some good stuff in this conversation about manifestation. And it was so good that there's actually a part two that I will upload tomorrow. So you're going to get an episode on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. The Thursday episode, of course, I will have my actual summary of the breakaways, but check the show notes because I'm still including what the breakaways are in the show notes for part one as well. But until next time, find a little time to take a break. Bye. Thanks for taking a break to listen to the episode. Connect with me at pm.kester, that's KESTER on Instagram, or email the Kester Group at gmail.com. As always, subscribe, rate, and review us on your platform of choice. Until next time, find a little time to take a break. Bye.